All right, welcome guys. This is a special episode of Dota 101. This is drafting. I understand people have complained about the length of some of the past videos, and in the intermediate level I will try to shed some time off. However, this one is drafting, so yes, it is going to be long because I gave you multiple drafts, and I went into detail about the thinking process and all that stuff. It was games that I played actually yesterday. So I wanted everybody to get like a realistic view of what it's like to be on a team and what it's like to be involved in the drafting process, and for those captains out there, just so you have a better idea as to just the mentality that goes with it, and everything all encompassing from there on out. So what I'd like to do now is explain something which I don't have a standard rule process here. I don't have a list of things you always should do. What I do have, though, is the ability to explain some things to you. I'll give you an example. The first two bans, in my opinion, should always go and define either, if you have a preset goal in mind, right? So you have an idea as to the heroes you want to build with, right? So you want somebody on your team is really good lone druid like Adam or Bulldog, and you want to pick that, or you're going to build around it. So what are you going to do? You're going to ban two of the best heroes on the pool that can mess up that strategy. Or if you don't have a preset idea going into it, what you want to do is ban heroes whom you or your team are not good with handling, or that you cannot play yourselves, but you obviously don't want them to have. So that should be the preset for two. I'm showing you guys this draft mainly because you're gonna see why I'm in part one. So as we go forward, the first pick in my opinion should always be the best hero on the board. Now Nyx Assassin, who is also my favorite hero, is the flavor of the month, and although that is good, you'll see sometimes that being picked. He's one of the better fours. He's what Jakira was a few months ago. So that's their first pick. Now moving forward, what we have is the next two picks, right? So the first two picks on either side should always be the best heroes on the board regardless. Now that doesn't mean, however, that if you got Bat Rider, that you have to necessarily take a Nyx. You could go for, let's say, 1A, 1B. So let's say you can maybe take a Luna or a Sven or something that fills another role because you have whatever idea or whatever. That doesn't mean you have to take Coddle Bat Rider or Coddle Nyx unless that's your aggressive try. The premise is you don't have to be stuck with two similar type heroes just because they're the best two on the board unless it's going to fit your strategy. What you could do is slightly go for another tier, a slightly below tier, and say, okay, well, I'm going to get this hero because it fits a need. But the two heroes primarily should always be, in my opinion, the best heroes on the board. Follow that up by the third pick. In my opinion, the third pick should always be and will always be what gives you the most information. For those of you poker players, that's the tell. For any of you football, either soccer or American football, these are the tendencies that your opponents normally have. To me, that pick gives you the most information because that pick is the implementation of whatever strategy is going on with the first two picks. For those of you that don't really understand what that means, it's, in layman's terms, that is going to tell you what they're going to do. Either team fight, heavy gank, early game push, late game. That pick normally, in my opinion, gives you information. I'm not going to say that is the most important pick, but for me, it's the pick that I use the most and rely on the most in order to dictate the terms of whatever is going to go on between us and them in the beginning, middle, and late game. That right there is going to give their strategy pretty much on the board. This is not 100% of the time, but a lot of the time, this is what you can use for information, unless people are tricky and they're playing mind games, which we will get into at some other point later on in this episode. So then we go right, and then we ban the next 3 heroes after that 3rd pick. Okay, so what are these bans? These bans are strictly the counters or the preemptive strikes launched by either team. So, for instance, this next team is going, whatever strategy, or my team, whatever's implemented, right, in these 3 picks, whatever heroes, whatever, the counters for those are going to be banned, as well as we're launching preemptive strikes. Well, obviously it's going to be banned up here, but that's not the point. We're going to be launching preemptive strikes to what we think they are going to pick based on the 3 picks that they already have. Either one is good. You can ban so that your team doesn't get countered. You can ban so that you can preemptively launch them, or like preemptively take away their heroes. Now, you could just counter pick whatever you thought here, but oftentimes I feel like it's best to implement your own strategy in that 3rd pick. So it's to balance out whatever picks have been made. Normally, this is just a general rule of thumb, because it's why I don't have a set rule. You know, in episode 2 and 3, I gave you questions about like whether you're a carry player. Here's if you fit the criteria. In episode 2, I gave you rules as to how to win middle lane, right? And I was very broad, but that's the whole, you know, I can do that with those lanes because I kind of understand more or less how those things work. Though I understand how drafting works, drafting's more intuitive. I'll give you an example, right? So Puppy is considered, right, to some people just a troll, but to some people like myself, sort of like a savant of drafting. Well, why do you say that? Well, who else fucking thinks in like the International 2 during the winners bracket finals that the Naga Darkseer tie combo is countered by a Juggernaut Enigma? Seems kind of weird, right? I mean, seems kind of interesting. Well, you could look at it 2 ways. Well, you know, he troll build that, or going forward, he's like a super genius. Fast forward to the finals, he picked the Nyx Assassin to counter the Naga Riptide. Nyx at the time didn't have the same carapace, which and his strength gain, which didn't allow him to be in the middle of the fray to use the carapace because he would just die too fast. So what does that do? Well, and of course, the reflection also made it really a popular pick, because the whole concept, right, was to take the Riptide out of it or to hurt. That was basically it. To just take the Riptide from them, hurt her, stun her, pin her down, kill her. I mean, it didn't really work, but some people say, well, that was a troll pick, and some people will say, well, you know, the thought was genius, right? And sometimes those things work, sometimes they don't. You can't really have a list of set defined rules because this shit is too intuitive. It's all based on experience, game IQ, and honestly, I mean, in my opinion, craftiness. Like, you have to be able to think. It's like chess. It's like a version of digital chess with 5 other players, and then you actually have to play it out. So sort of like a Shogun, right? Where you have a campaign, where you have to manage all these cities and armies and all this stuff, and then also you can battle and fight it out, and you're in the middle of war. Sort of the same thing. So now the 4th pick, in my opinion, is more of the dictator in terms of how the laning structure will be. Why I say that is, most of the time by the first 4 picks, you can automatically have an assumption as to whether they're going to aggressive tri-lane, and sometimes even sooner, whether they're going to aggressive tri-lane, 2-2-1, 2-2-1 mid, by the way. That's when you have the 2 heroes middle, and then 2 heroes in the short lane, and then 1 suicide lane. Or if they're going to go like super late game, so defensive tri-lane-ish. So that is going to, in my opinion, dictate to you exactly what the role, like the lane set, the lane composition is going to be. So oftentimes, I will say this, oftentimes it's best to get the first pick on Dota. However, I prefer getting the second, mainly because, like in a snake draft, right? It's almost like if you're in a fantasy football draft, and for those of you who are in Europe and don't really, you know, there is a fantasy soccer. I'm not sure if you guys are into it, but you know, it's a snake draft. It's sometimes not the best thing to get the #1 overall pick. It's sometimes best to be somewhere in the middle so that you can get multiple picks much faster than that #1 pick. And not only do I think these two, for me personally, I like it. Now, some others don't. They like the first pick. But I get to see all of the information most of the time first, and then I get to pick from that. Now, it doesn't always happen because remember, I end up having to get second dibs on everything, but I like to be able to read information, and then I like to be able to analyze it, and then, you know, respond and adapt based on whatever information I have. So following that frame of thought, the 5th pick is oftentimes like the tricky pick or just the balancing pick. So it's either going to balance or unbalance all of these equations. What I mean by that is, have you ever seen a game, and this happens in the professional scene a lot, where the other lineup, like, let's say this lineup was like, even, we can add Coddle, because even Coddle's not really that serious, because if you're a good brood mother, you can handle this. So let's say they have Nyx, Coddle, they have, let's just say, this is just it's a total, I'm not saying this is a good draft, I'm just saying, you know, these are the heroes. Nyx, Gondar, and I don't know. I mean, it doesn't matter, but let's say Beastmaster. Or no, not Beastmaster. Let's say Enigma. The 5th pick could be a Broodmother, and they're not going to be able to handle it. Yes, track on Broodmother can work, but it still doesn't matter. Like, it neutralizes the speed of track, and at the same time, you know, you still have to allow Gondar to get up there. But there's no way to handle the Broodmother. So that 5th pick is sometimes like, holy shit, it unbalances everything that you try to work for in your draft. Or you can just completely balance your team out. So say there's a tie left on the board and you don't have a counter initiator or just a really strong initiator in general. Well, that can balance out your team, and that can be the hero that either decides to go solo or, you know, in the tri lane. It's super flexible, right? So it's going to balance out your team. Now, these are just the my psychology when it comes to this. This is just what I feel the draft does for me, and this is just how I read the draft. However, like I said, nobody can sit here and say that there's one way to draft or there's a right way to draft, because it's too intuitive. And in my opinion, I think it's just a touch and feel process. And anybody that fucking tells you that there is one way to draft is sort of stupid, because there really isn't. You can win games by trolling and just drafting nothing and just doing whatever, because the draft is just one part of the process. The other part of the process is implementing whatever strategy and executing that strategy. Like, the players are a big part of the strategy. So you can have, and you're going to see a game where we have a superior draft, but because one lane gets shit, well, 2 lanes get shit stomped, we just fucking lose, and there's just no other way around it. You can sit here and pick the best heroes in the world, but it doesn't matter. It comes down to actually being able to play. However, a lot of games are won and lost at this process, and this is why this thing is so important. So with that in mind, we're going to jump into the first video. Okay, so before I continue, I just want to explain what the scenario is. So these are games I actually played yesterday, and I'm going to go through a bunch of games that we played yesterday and talk about the strengths and the weaknesses of our draft, our bans, and how everything worked out. I am not the captain of this game. I'm playing with a friend of mine, who, his name is Eric, and most of the time me and Eric usually go back and forth in drafts. There are some games which I'll point out where he just did whatever he wanted, and, you know, boom, and it's nothing with malice. He just, you know, he just decided to just go with a particular strategy, and we just trusted him and just played it. There is going to be games where I'm not, or there's going to be another captain, and we're going to speak about that in general, but for the most part, we're going to explain some of just my games that I play, some Captain's Mode games that I play, and then we're going to talk about, like, the drafting phase, all that stuff, and then I'm going to show you whether I won or lost, so that you guys can understand like how important it is to not beat yourself before the game even starts in this mode. This is a beginner's guide to drafting, so I'm not going to get so intricate into some of the picks and complexities and like preset strategies and all that other stuff. I'm just going to get you into the mind of what we were doing. Now I'm going to first explain the bans before I continue this. I'm going to be going at 2x speed. I'm going to be pausing so that you guys can see what's going on. So right out of the bat, 3 of the 4 heroes I don't mind being first pick banned, because obviously Magnus is extremely good, Batrider's good. Oh, well, especially Batrider, he's just amazing. Nyx, my favorite hero, thankfully is beginning to get some play, so I'm really glad to see that. Nyx is a very good 4. His carapace is just so incredibly tough in team fights, and you normally sometimes see Kato here. You can see Darkseer. You can even see Enigma, depending on what preset strategies you have. But for the most part, the outlier in this draft was the Phantom Lancer. Now it threw us off at first, so now I'm gonna start it. We're gonna go on 2x speed, and I'm just gonna explain what's going on. So as we're thinking here, okay, well obviously they're either gonna pick Kato now. Well, why would that? Well, PL Kato in Dota 1 was extremely strong. It even is good here, but just normally it's not really picked. So they end up first picking a Darkseer. So we immediately think, okay, now they're going team fight. Now why would you say that? Well, okay, Darkseer just is overwhelming in team fights, right? So his vacuum, his wall, he sets a lot of heroes up. You know, he can set up an Enigma, he can set up a whole bunch of heroes, You can combo this like IG did at the International, which I attended. For those of you that haven't seen my interviews, by the way, check it out on Absolute Legends TV on YouTube. But anyways, yeah, sorry. Sorry for that little promo. Right, so you can combo him with heroes like Naga, and you know, like IG did Tide, and you could just have overwhelming team fight. And the moment you guys are able to team fight, you just do it, and normally you'll just win a whole load of battles. You automatically have to think now, okay, what role is Darkseer going to actually present? Well, he's going to be the 3. So we already know what their long lane is going to be, so we can choose accordingly as to what heroes we're going to have in a tri lane, or what heroes we're going to use to stop him, maybe what hero we're going to play in a one-on-one to go against him. Now I don't remember what the hell we picked this game, so this is just gonna you know, we're gonna see right here. All right, we went Rubik. For the support, Rubik is normally not the first pick anymore. He used to be really good, and then we ended up taking the Kato because we had a particular game plan. I believe yeah. Actually remember this. We're gonna aggressive tri-lane here, because we're like, okay, we're gonna put Darkseer in a one-on-one where he's gonna lose the one-on-one to a hero whom we're going to pick, which they're gonna allow us to pick, unless they obviously ban it, of course. So what ended up happening is we pick up the Rubik for the early strength, right? The Fade Bolt with the telekinesis set up for the Kato, which is really strong and aggressive challenge. For those of you that haven't tried it, it is really powerful. If you team it up with like a Sven, or you team it up with like a CK, or somebody that can just have a stun, and you know, as a strength hero that can eat it, soak up damage. So they go with a really strong combination here. They go Templar Assassin. That automatically, instinctually for us, says, okay, that's their middle, and then boom, this is their hero in the tri lane, Undying. We immediately pick the Lone Druid. Lone Druid is going to eventually go into the one-on-one setting. I'm going to pause this so I can get these picks explained. Right, so he's going to go in the one-on-one setting. I'm sorry, excuse me, he's going to go in the tri-lane setting, because they're going to have Darkseer going long lane. They're going to have TA middle. So we need a middle, right, that can combat a TA, somebody that can hold their own against a TA. We also need to have a hero that isn't going to be blasted, let's say, right, by the Undying, who is extremely early on, right? We need to have a hero up front. We can't just have 2 support heroes, right? So you can't have just intelligence heroes against an Undying, because Undying just has natural strength, and obviously with Decay and, you know, Tombstone on intelligence heroes, it's just really powerful. So we need a beefier hero. We need a hero that can go into the front lines and just soak up some damage. Hopefully he'll have a stun and such. So then we go to bans. Like, what carry don't we want in an aggressive tri lane with an Undying? Well, Clearly, you don't want Luna with the damage that she can put out really early. It can be really ugly, especially in the safe lane, so we ban the Luna. Also, late game, Luna is just incredible with her versatility, right? Early game, she's a magic damage dealer, depending, obviously, on how you build her and how you skill her, which we're not going to get into, but these are just the possible ways that you can play it. So, we don't want to fight Luna in the early game in that tri-lane. We definitely don't want to see Luna in the late game against especially a lone druid, because Luna at range, especially with the glaives and stuff, she's just a pain in the ass, so we got rid of her. They didn't want to see Nakes. I'm thinking they thought that they didn't want the tri-lane against Darkseer to be a Nakes, obviously for that heavy slow through the surge or whatever. Life Leech is really good. He's also a really good hero against Undying, because he can infest and then kill all the zombies and such in one shot, as well as do a boatload of damage, and he has lifesteal, and we can just keep going on and on and on about why. This is just what they were afraid of. Now, we wouldn't have picked it because of our choice, the players we have. However, they don't know that. They also got rid of Viper because they thought, okay, Viper's also one of those early game heroes with that combination will be really, really, really hard to stop, especially considering Viper, he you know, with corrosive skin, he has some nice magic damage, but his first skill is just the poison attack is just the problem. You don't want to be going up against it. Personally, I wouldn't have banned it. I felt that though they made 3 big mistakes in the draft, it was the heroes that they selected to basically give us, because you'll see what I'm talking about in the future. But those bans I felt were really dumb. The Tide ban I can understand. I can understand the Tide ban because you don't obviously want to go up against the Tide ult, as well as the fact that Tide could, you know, possibly short lane maybe against the Darkseer and hold his own, and Darkseer wants to be able to smash whoever he's up against. Also, you don't want to obviously fight in that team fight with Tidehunter, especially with an Undying who is going to initiate with Tombstone and then Decay, and then guess what? You guys start pressing forward. They have 3 melee heroes, right? Darkseer has to surge forward. TA has to blink in and meld and do damage, and with refraction, and then Tide just counter initiates ultis, while Coddle hopefully is having his Illuminate being set up, and then you just have a shit ton of problems there. And then once he stuns everybody, say somebody like Darkseer uses the wall, then Rubik can now take his ultimate and use it, and you don't want these issues, right? So Tide, I felt Tide and Magnus were their good bans. Their terrible bans were the PL, the Nakes, and the Viper. I think totally they just either outthought themselves or didn't know what they were doing, right? So we didn't want Gyrocopter. Why don't we want Gyrocopter? We don't want Gyrocopter to go flat cannon build and just go right click. He's super annoying. His ultimate is really strong as well, and we just didn't want to deal with that. We also didn't want to deal with Jakiro, who is no longer the flavor of the month and the hero that everybody uses to first pick to set up, you know, aggressive tri-lanes. We don't want Undying and Jakiro. We obviously know from the months that have passed how strong the combination is. It's no longer like I said, the flavor of the week, but it's okay. I mean, you know, whatever. So they're picking, and they picked the Faceless Void. Why I like the Faceless Void pick. Faceless Void has now come into the fray of carries because of heroes like Sven and heroes like Luna with their ultimate, with his ultimate, with his Chronosphere. He can pin them down and then, you know, quickly kill them if he has the items or whatever. I completely understand the pick. I don't really like it because why don't I like it? Why do you guys think I don't like it? I like the hero choice against our team. I don't like it based on the composition of their team. This is the difference. You guys have to understand. You can like certain heroes. CK would have been great with Undying, right? CK, awesome. I mean, you could even farm a Tiny down there. So much disable and magic damage early. It's awesome. Why are those heroes impractical? Sven as well. Sven's a big one. Why are these heroes impractical? They have 4 melee. You're putting yourself in a severe disadvantage by having to come in melee range. Why? Because you have to press forward, and also you have to press forward into a Kato Illuminate before fights even begin, as well as the fact that you have heroes like Rubik who can sit in the back and pick apart your team by taking spells that they want while fade bolting all of you, because obviously you guys have to be in range. Why? Because you are melee heroes who have to be in close proximity to the battle. So that's a major problem. That's a major flaw these guys have, is they don't have the ability to fight us at a distance. Now that is huge. That is paramount, especially on support heroes, which they're support heroes as of right now. Darkseer is going to end up being a support later on in the game, depending on how it goes out. And then obviously Undying being, he's technically playing the four for them right now, excuse me. So what's going to end up happening? Okay, so then they go Lion. Now I'm not going to get into the specifics of when Lion is good or not, or why he's good or whatever. All I'm going to say is Lion in this particular case wasn't really good because Lion needs a lot of levels, and though Lion has a lot of disables and the early Hex, Shadow Shaman would have been much better because we have beefy heroes like Sven and Lone Druid who you're not going to be able to one-shot, especially if Lone Druid's in bear form, and when Sven gets a BKB, it's going to be a little bit of an issue for you to even target him, so Lion's going to have to be relegated strictly to supports. And guys, if I'm speaking fast, it's because this is going on really fast and I have multiple games to get to. This was definitely not on the program, but I want you guys to understand that if you have to rewind because I'm going too fast, by all means rewind it, watch this at your leisure. I'm just going to go at a fast pace because I know what I want to get to and I know all the things I want to explain, and we are not breaking this down in depth. This is just so that going into the intermediate levels, you guys have an idea as to how to do this if you guys want to play Captain's Mode, because I've showed no love to people who play Captain's Mode even at earlier levels, though. Even though I'm against you guys playing Captain's Mode when you don't even know how to play, a lot of people have said, hey bro, like, you know, talk about items and drafting, and items I'm going to get into later, but the drafting I felt needed to be spoken about now. So Lion needs levels because that's where Lion builds his strength. Lion technically isn't a good 5 for a defensive tri-lane. I mean, I like the hero. I think the hero can be used. The early Hex is incredible. His stun at range is really good. His ultimate, obviously, once he gets 6, is super strong. But I felt like maybe there were better heroes in the pool. They could have gone a Veno. They could have gone Shadow Shaman. Venomancer with Poison Nova would have definitely hurt our team, considering nobody is on our team is going to get an early pipe because we don't have the hero for it right now. Like Sven is probably going to get drums. Kato is going to go mech. Rubik is, you know, is going to be relegated to not being able to farm because he's going to have to concede to the Sven, and Kato can basically just kill waves for XP and free lanes. Rubik has to be with the team the whole time. So you guys get my point. We're not going to have an early pipe. So the magic damage from Poison Nova would have been really, 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 really good for TA and Darkseer with Ion Shell. That's a lot of crap load of magic damage to not have a pipe against a team that you can obviously beat, right? So the Lion pick here was terrible. Now, are you guys going to say, yeah, you guys won this game because these guys fucking suck or whatever, blah, blah, blah. I don't know if these guys suck or not. I don't know if they're having a bad day. I don't know if they're strategizing. But the point is, when you play games, you are going to go up against people that may make mistakes in drafts or in the game, and I always say take advantage of those mistakes. Regardless of the fact that they make mistakes, I mean, you know, it is what it is. Now, you're going to say, why the hell did you pick Pudge? Well, I didn't really want the Pudge pick. I was going to go for something else, but we have a player on our team who is outstanding on Pudge. He's a total monster on the Butcher. So Eric made the captain's call and said, all right, well, we're going to give Army, that's his name, Pudge, to beat the TA, to go through the refraction. TA technically, in my opinion, has a little bit of advantage on Pudge, even though a lot of people say, well, not really because of Ra and, you know, all this stuff. I just feel like Psyblades is really overpowered, and if you know how to use it and manipulate it on in the creep line, right, you can hit Pudge a lot before he's able to get in range of you, and that damage over time is really going to be powerful because he's going to want to be less and less aggressive. So you know, even though I think TA has it's not a major advantage, it's not something you can't, you know, win, but it's a little bit of an advantage. But the difference between that little advantage and, right, the big advantage is player skill, right? So we're hoping that the player's skill, right, you know, his Pudge play will not only mitigate the advantage, but may put the advantage in his favor because he has a way to get through refraction and all this other stuff. Okay, and I'm not going to go through the game. I'm just going to probably show you guys the end of the game. I could have just showed you guys the scoreboard, right? I'll probably do that for the rest of the games. Kind of fucking dumb. I don't know why yeah. I'm just going to do this. I'm going to show you the stats, right? We have carry coddle up in this piece. Just going to show you the lats hits and denies. I was going Yeah, I was the lone druid, and I went up against Darkseer up here and basically just beat him. These are the scores. This was an easy victory. Obviously, our tri-lane dominated. I mean, all that good stuff. So we're going to go straight to the next game, and yeah. All right, so let me slow this down a little bit so that we can discuss it. Obviously, you can see by the bans that these are some troll bans. I mean, it is what it is. The only reason I'm showing this is so that you guys get a better understanding of what we're thinking throughout most other games. Now, this game looks like it was a troll, but they ended up picking a pretty standard balanced team. It's just, you know, I was talking to Puppy at the International, and he was saying that sometimes when people pick these types of bans, it's just so that they can have the most amount of heroes on the board, which is why sometimes Navi bans the Pudge. It's not just that Dendy's one of the best Pudges in the world. It's also so that they can have more picks. It makes it way more complex. Yeah, I mean, and for those of you that haven't seen my interviews of these pros and stuff at the International, you can check them out at Absolute Legends TV, the same YouTube channel which you check these Dota 1-on-1 videos out. But anyways, so, you know, obviously you can tell that, you know, Eric doesn't like Batrider or Magnus. We ended up picking Nyx, they ended up picking Coddle, so we ended up picking Nyx because it's almost sort of like a counter pick. We preemptively picked it up so that they couldn't get it, because Nyx Coddle's pretty strong, and we didn't want it. We ended up adjusting because I remember this game I was originally going to go the 4, right? I was going to play the Nyx. I was like, all right, well, we got Nyx, so we'll aggressive try lane the Nyx. We'll get Darkseer to set up our team fights. We'll get a hero like Luna as the carry, and like everything will be gravy. And then as you're gonna start seeing the complexity of the graph just starts changing really quickly. Like, we knew a PL was gonna be picked. Like, I was calling it, and you know, everybody knew it was gonna be picked, because I mean, it's a pretty strong lane and it's a very good aggressive tri lane, but they run into a little bit of a roadblock later on, and we'll discuss it in the draft. So they end up picking PL, then they end up getting Undying. So this is their aggressive tri lane. We know from these picks, from this pick right here, right, you know, going back to what I mentioned in the introduction to this is the information pick. This is their offensive tri lane. So they're missing their long laner, they're missing their middle. Well, again, we understand the plan that we're going with, and as you guys will see, of course, throughout this video, Luna does pretty well against Undying. Maybe not so much early, because just Undying's ability to be in your face, and Tombstone's really strong, and K is just amazing. Early on, it's a little bit of a pain in the ass, but once Luna gets going, like, he's not even an issue. So going forward, now the bans are coming out. Now they're gonna ban some things here that I'm gonna question. I'm gonna explain why I question them. So see, I'm just forwarding this gentleman or ladies, I'm not sure. Obviously, I'm not even gonna get into why Invoker's a stupid ban right now, but I mean, it is what it is. Though to them, I guess they understood that, you know, hey, they need a mid, but still, the Queen of Pain, I completely will vouch for that ban. That's a good ban, because what we have already is mobility. What they don't want to give up is more mobility, as well as ganking potential, and a hero that is good early, middle, and late game. So the Queen of Pain ban was so far their only ban that I would give any credit to. We didn't want Thrall for the obvious reasons. Thrall can solo, can middle, and is just a disruption for heroes that have to cast a lot of abilities. And as you can see, we have 2 of the 3 that need to cast a lot of abilities, and one in particular that early on needs to cast abilities in order to be effective and do damage in fights. So we just didn't want the Thrall. The Lone Druid, obviously, because we knew they needed a solo, and we hadn't picked our mid yet, so we didn't really want to have him go the possibility of mid lane. Panda, I disagree with that ban as well, because, well, for one, that's another melee, and 2, Panda's really, I mean, he would fit in a team lineup like this because he gives us the middle game strength that we sort of lack. But I think the mistake was the laning him middle at this point. We would give the advantage to them, because if we were to pick a Brewmaster, all they really have to do is counterpick the middle, and just have a hero that is good enough to hold its own and good enough in the mid game, and we pretty much would have to help the Panda by then neglecting the Luna. So in an aggressive tri-lane with PL Kato spamming Spirit Lance all fucking day. So that was pretty stupid. Gondar, once again, we banned it just because obviously track gold with PL and Undying and Kato is just a pain in the butt. And it would have been a good solo top to go up against the Darkseer. You know, they end up picking Tidehunter. Now, Tide I don't mind as the solo. I mean, what they did was they balanced out their team fight, right? So to keep Hero stationary for Kato and Undying, as well as allow Undying Phantom Lancer the ability to do what he does well. For those of you that don't play PL, he's best played really kiting and using Spirit Lance and microing Juxtapose, and yet doing damage to really squishy heroes at a safe distance. Like he doesn't have to get into the fray until late game, where then he's really strong and then he can right click whoever, but he can generally stay safe and deal a ton of damage, especially if you give him something like a Purge or Radiance in particular, if he can get it early on. We obviously counterpicked the Tidehunter with Rubik. That was going on, but as of right now, our tri-lane is Rubik, Luna, and Nyx until, and I remember this moment, this Eureka moment, the DP pick. Once the Death Prophet was picked, I remember telling Eric, who was the captain, I was like, bro, I'm going middle, just so you know, and I'm not going in the 4. You need to pick somebody for the tri-lane because I'm just going to dominate this chick. And yes, I literally said that and then did it because it is a mismatch nightmare. So not only is Nyx really good against this hero in particular middle, because if you skill mana burn at level 1, what you can end up doing is just spamming it and neutralizing Death Prophet's only ability to do damage, consistent damage, which is obviously her exorcism. I mean her Crypt Swarm, and it's this ability right here, her first skill. And then once she gets a bottle, she can either last hit with it, push the wave against a Nyx who has the ability to do it, but not at the rate or efficiency level as the Death Prophet, but as well as give them the beef. Now the reason the DP was picked is to protect the PL. See, he is the counter initiator or initiator. She is the damage dealer throughout the late or the mid game, late mid game. He is basically the ace in the hole, right? So he's going to farm all games, he's going to participate in fights, but he's always going to be at a relatively safe distance, and he's not going to die. And the less he dies, the longer the game goes, the stronger that team is, and the more likely they're going to win the game. As well as having people having to focus on DP allows heroes like Undying to continue to kite and decay and flesh rip, you know, and then it allows Kato to basically just sit there and because they know, well, the Kato will know, right? He's going to set up his Illuminate because he's going to know that they're going to be targeting Death Prophet. So you target the heroes, right? So far the heroes, right? And Luna's going to be pretty much up close, right? You know, within range of the Illuminate. So you just have to set it up where the Death Prophet is going or kiting to, or, you know, any of that stuff. So it was a really balanced team. They have a really balanced team. Death Prophet is great at pushing going into the late game. Kato's also good at pushing and counter pushing. PL's good at pushing and counter pushing. They have a good split push team. They have a good early team fight team. They have a good mid game team, especially with the Tidehunter and the Undying Kato lineup. So the Rubik is really just protection for the Tidehunter, but then what are we going to pick? Now, this is a case where some of you guys may go, well, you know, we have a multitude of heroes that we could pick, right? So we could let the Darkseer maybe go middle, keep that tri-lane, and then throw an Enigma because of just these heroes are all going to be up close, or we can just catch PL, you know, or whatever, right? So we can say, well, we can have a hero like that, or we can have a hero like, you know, Sand King go up against Tidehunter, who he wins that matchup, especially if he skills up Caustic Finale at first. Tidehunter will never be able to get close to the wave, right? So you can do that. You can have him up there in the long lane. You can have a Windrunner, right? So you can have shackles, and really heavy shackles. For those of you that don't know, if you shackle one of PL's juxtapose illusions to anything, PL also gets shackled. For those of you that aren't aware of this, so Windrunner's another viable option. You could also get really tricky and just throw some other heroes in the mix. I'm not gonna get into every fucking hero that can do this shit, because that's not the point of this. The point of this is so that you guys understand, well, what could we do here, right? We don't have to send Nyx middle, right? Like, we could send a Darkseer middle, or we could send Darkseer in the long lane and just adjust our mid strategies, right? So we can go with like more late game carries, like I don't know, for the sake of his Shadow Fiend here or whatever. But the point is, I basically told Eric, I'm going middle, I'm gonna dominate, just trust me. He trusted me, he allowed me to go middle. Therefore, he needed a third party in that tri lane, that aggressive or that defensive tri lane, and his selection is going to be very surprising. Now, Puppy has done this before in Na'Vi, and it has worked out like a charm. It works out again this way because, and I'm going to explain why in a second. Look at his final pickup. Now, I have to tell you, I was apprehensive about it at first, because when he fucking picked it, I was pissed off. I was like, are you serious? Like, what are you doing? And he's like, bro, you just got to trust me. Like that's what he said. He's like, bro, you got to trust me. Like, I was like, all right. But, I mean, seriously, like, PL Kato against Luna, like, she's going to get raped early. And she had a hard time early game because the PL was rightfully at level 3, spamming his ability, as well as, well, I mean, he was doing it, I think, pretty early as well, but he was just spamming Spirit Lance on Luna. That's all you really have to do, is just make her buy regen. Now, luckily, Luna and the supports had enough regen. Well, look, you're going to see he went Axe. Now, the reason why the Axe works, and I'm going to go into the game so that I can show you guys through the mini-map, via the mini-map. I'm not going to show you the whole game or any of that shit. Like, I mean, it is what it is. I'm just going to show you more or less what happened. So when this game was going on, you know, they're all here, right? So, you know, Kato's here trying to blast these two that are defending at the tower and all this stuff. They end up killing a Rubik pretty early. It wasn't first blood. I got first blood, actually. But Axe hit level 3, and once he hit level 3, he came here, kept catching Kato around here in the jungle, right? Battle hunger, right? He got a soul ring first item, of course, and some regen. So, and he got a lot of regen. He actually had, I believe, 1 or 2 health pots, and he just kept coming in here and doing that. Then he would get PL. Then he would get the Undying. Then he would go back and get Kato. And by the time Luna was level 5 and Axe was level 4, Axe was up here, they were in here. And Kato had no HP forever. Like, he must have had so many consumables purchased. I want to see if I can bring you guys to that actual spot where you see, like, they were at their tower. They were so scared of this kid. They were so scared of this Axe pick that they were literally at their tower, like, all right, bro, we don't want any more of this. Please stop playing games. And look, I mean, you can see it here. Like, he's just spent the entire lane just harassed. And then you have things like this. Like, look where he is. Axe is now back here, but look at where they are. Look at where they are, and look at the flexibility these two have. You know, just from a pick like that. But yeah, so the end of the game stats were reveal the winning team. Yeah, so you can see, like, this thing, I mean, it worked out. It clearly went in our favor. Darkseer got an early top tower against the Tide by back cutting because the tri lane was too preoccupied to help him. Middle was just obviously getting beat up, and then obviously the tri lane was successful, but the pickup was very intelligent, and that's part of this whole little segment here. I want you guys to understand that you can you don't have to pick conventional picks. You can select, you know, picks or heroes that you guys are good with, that you can that is your niche, that play a certain strategy and role, right? The battle hunger build to counter that tri lane, if their positioning was out of whack, right? Kept catching one of them, you know, and then just making him pay for it, and then running away and knowing that the damage, you know what I mean? Like, so that's something that you want to keep in mind. We're going to be going into the next game here in a second.
Dire team pick.
Okay, guys, so we're going to go into this game. You see pretty standard bans with the Magnus and Batrider, and then he threw a kind of a wrench and went Panda, and Panda's good and all, but Panda's not, I would say, a first pick ban, even though his mid-game strength is pretty impressive, as well as his early game. I don't really think it's something that's justifiable when it's a first pick ban. Well, in the first stage of bans. So they picked Nyx Assassin. We ended up picking Lone Druid because we had a particular strategy that Lone Druid throws a wrench into, because he back cuts creep, and he back cuts against this particular hero, and we didn't want to do that because we were going to probably put him in a one-on-one setting, and if he went suicide solo, that would have been a problem. Inversely, if he's in the short lane and that other hero's in a one-on-one with him, that's going to be a major issue. So we had a hero in mind for this, and Lone Druid definitely throws a wrench into that. So we got rid of him. Going back to what we said earlier, right? If you have an idea already preset and what you kind of want to do, then you have to kind of take the heroes out that really screw that up. But what ended up happening was they picked Nyx Assassin first. We were like, oh man, oh shoot. So that was going to be part of our aggressive tri-lane. Well, they ended up picking it. So then we immediately got Kato. Why? Well, it's a counter pick. It basically, if you guys haven't seen Mana Burn and Chakra, it's just ridiculous, because mana, you can spam, you can keep the other heroes with no mana, and they're at a complete disadvantage. And then, you know, especially if they lane switch late, you know, they lose time, and it's a nasty combo. You don't ever want to be a part of it. So we counterpicked the Kato, not what we had intended. So continuing on that frame of mind, we're like, all right, well, now the fuck do we do? So we just adjusted and said, okay, well, we're gonna go Darkseer, and then we're gonna just throw him on the long lane. We'll figure it out as we see what they pick. Well, they ended up picking Nyx and then Undying. Again, what do you see? You see 3 melee heroes. Not particularly, again, the thing you want to end up putting yourself into, right? You don't want to put yourself into a position where you literally have to cluster and get into small packs to do damage, because you don't want to have that, you know, you want to be able to attack from range. Well, they didn't do that. So we're thinking, okay, well, let's pick heroes that are more dominant in the early laning phase role. Even though Nyx and Undying is really strong in the tri-lane, we kind of felt, well, I mean, at some point they're gonna have to mix it up. Why? Because that can't be their tri-lane, because that's 3 melee, and that is just gonna be terrible for them, because they could just get smashed. So we thought, okay, well, let's go Luna again on the whole thing. She's going against Undying. She can attack Nyx, the Life Stealer, from range. And even if he decides to get close, if rage isn't up, he'll then just die to her ulti. You just have to make sure your positioning is really good. I ended up playing Luna this game because I felt her positioning had to be super important, because if Nyx is able to just open up on her, and then, you know, Nyx is in the Nyx bomb, right? If Nyx ultimates, if Nyx vendettas and then Nyx comes in for the Nyx bomb, I don't know, for those of you that haven't seen like Storm Spirit Nyx, or just, you know, other heroes like that, it's just he infests, and when he comes out he does damage. Well, in Nyx it's just really bad. So we were like, yes, you know, we need to be very safe with the Luna, but the Luna is something that we wanted to pick, so we addressed it. We said, okay, let's pick the Luna, then we're going to figure it out. They obviously went Beastmaster, which in my opinion was a crucial mistake, because why? We already kind of have our long lane, and maybe we could Beastmaster middle, but I mean, why? Like, the strength that we have is range, the weakness you have is not range, you know, is being melee. So why go melee middle when you're gonna have to send one of those heroes, or at least we thought, right, one of those heroes middle, like Nyx, right? So we assume Nyx is gonna go middle for right now. That's what our assumption is. So why? I mean, you're only putting yourself at a disadvantage if it's Nyx against a range. Not that you can't do it, because obviously I do it fairly often. That is my favorite hero, and there are definitely ways around it, but for the most part, this is what your thinking should be. So we're thinking, okay, well, thanks, like, sure. You know, it's just a wasted ban, right? So there's going to be more good heroes on the board, and we know we're going to get them, because look, I mean, they need the support now, they need the range, and they need their mid hero. So, or at least that's going into what we're thinking. So then we banned Rubik. Obviously, we don't want the Rubik in the tri lane, because we clearly showed and explained why earlier. We don't want the TA middle, because TA is really strong middle, and we don't yet have an answer for the TA outside of just Ion Shell at the moment. So okay, they did a sort of like, I mean, the Enigma ban, in my opinion, was super strong for them. It was really smart, because why? Well, Enigma is anti-melee, and if we picked Enigma here, that's all melee. Enigma is all, Black Hole is just the anti-melee ultimate. I mean, it's an incredible ultimate, compounded obviously with the fact that it's really good against certain melee heroes. Life Stealer can't avoid it, and In my opinion, you can literally throw him at this point in any lane and pick up any strategy. You could even throw him middle and just as Eidolon to destroy any melee hero, right? So it's just, that was a really smart ban. The Sven, also a smart ban if our intention was to support it like Puppy sometimes does from Navi, and throw him at the 4 position sort of, and then have sort of late game potential with this God Strength and all that stuff. So yeah, that would have been, I mean, I was completely okay with those bans. I thought those were pretty insightful bans. I felt the 2 mistakes obviously were the Panda and the Beastmaster because it just didn't sort of make sense. We got rid of Shadow Demon. Obviously, for those of you that don't know, the Purge is just incredible, and I mean, you know, between Disruption and he's just super good. He's just really good, and we didn't want the Purge out there anyways, so we got rid of it. So then moving forward, you know, the Queen of Pain band, that's their middle. So we immediately think, okay, crap. So they're gonna go mid. So okay, so what are we gonna do? Who are we gonna send? We can go. Wow, we can go Puck, right? Like, why would you go Puck? Well, Puck's good against them, and he sets up for the team. We can go other heroes. Who are we gonna go? Who are we gonna go? Who are we gonna go? And then I remember I mentioned, I think to Eric, like we could have gone a bunch of stuff, but I told Eric, you know, we should get Bane because Bane's ultimate through Life Stealer. Also, the ability to sleep Quap in fights means that we can now dictate who we fight, and we can just sort of build around, you know, that team fighting aspect. You could also enfeeble whatever hero they decide to choose. Like if they decide right now to pick up Gondar and end up suiciding Gondar, you know, and they do that triple melee bullshit or whatever, or, you know, all that stuff, they end up suiciding Quap. But like there's just all these variables now that can be played here. So we were just like, the enfeeble's pretty decent, even though nobody, like, he can just rage through it, so it's really not that good for him particular, but we don't know what's coming next. So we said the enfeeble, you know, could be helpful. Enfeeble's really good in tri lanes versus tri lanes. For those of you that don't know, Feeble's super good. So we were like, well, we were gonna tri lane the Coddle and the Luna, being able to you know, spam brain sap, super strong. So we went forward, and then you know, that just rounded out our selection. Obviously, Nightmare, that ultimate going through Life Stealers, Rage, whatever, is just what we wanted. They ended up picking up Leshrac, and we ended up picking up Puck here, I think. Now, we end up losing this game. Now, why I wanted to point this out is, based on the lineups, I feel we had the better team. Though they had the push, though they had the team fight in terms of early game presence and dominance, I felt like once we got things rolling, once Luna got a BKB, once Darkseer got a pipe, once Kato got a mech, we would just, you know, and then Puck having the blink initiation, we would really be in a position of dominance. Well, we lost because our lanes lost, in particular our middle lane, and this isn't to like call anybody out or whatever, but I'm just gonna see if I can fast forward and see what all happened. What is this time? It's still pretty early. Okay, yeah. Let's go a little bit further, because you're gonna see what I'm saying about the tri lane. All right, so our tri lane is currently 3 and 1. Our tri lane is 3 and 1. Their tri lane, this is their tri lane, right? Their tri lane. Look at their levels. Look at this guy's level. Look at my level. 5-5, and then look, 6. Our tri lane is dominating their tri lane. What's the difference? Can anybody explain to me what the difference is? It's the other lanes. Right? We're getting beat down here. He's dying. We're getting beat here. He's dying. So that rounds out the difference. We're going to go a little bit forward now. Now, what now is the difference? Right? Now we're 3 and 2, 6 and 2. 2 and 3. Look, we're just dying. Now we're dying. Why are we dying? Because, you know, Quap ended up porting in and killing us. So even though I felt they had a way well, I mean, I guess they really don't. What I was saying was, I felt that we beat them at the draft. I felt like they had a major, they were way behind. They had a major disadvantage going into the game, right, at the start of the game. But what's the overall difference? The difference is not sometimes the heroes, right, and sometimes the lanes. Sometimes it just goes down to the players, and they're winning. I mean, like, look, a level 3 Nyx, a level 5, a level 6. We're at level 7, 6, and 6. We have better numbers. What is the difference? Middle. Middle is the difference. Level 11 to a level 7. This is utter and complete domination. So we made just a huge mistake in the decision to put a hero like Puck, a specialty hero, against the Quap, even though I feel Puck is definitely capable of holding their own. But we just, I mean, again, remember, these are my friends, and this is live, and this is going to go out there, so I don't definitely want to call anybody out. But we were very overzealous in our confidence in the ability to win that lane, and it cost us because this player changed the game. So we ended up losing the 20-minute mark. It was just complete domination by the Quap, and that's the difference. We won the tri lane, we got the picks we wanted, we did everything that we wanted. Also, the Darkseer got obliterated bottom, and we didn't show that. I mean, it is what it is. And of course, I don't mean to call any of these guys out. I mean, it is what it is. We have bad games. Everybody has bad games. I have bad games. You have bad games. We all have bad games. So, we're gonna jump right into the next game. Okay, so this is the game as it as it stands. This is a new game. We just got our asses beat. We were just like, what the fuck? I felt like we had a major advantage going into that game. I felt like our draft was superior. I felt like our laning composition was superior. I felt like our team morale, right, since we won, was superior. Like, our confidence was high. Bro, we're gonna smash these kids. What the fuck was that? It was a stupid draft. Yet we got smashed because of just not doing our jobs. And like I said, sometimes it doesn't always come down to the drafting, the picks, the heroes. Sometimes it comes down to the players, and we didn't do what we needed to do to win, and we got beat. So the next game we come into goes from Bat Rider. We again ban Magnus, and you guys are gonna see, right, like, man, these guys must hate Bat Rider Magnus. I don't know. Eric just has a fast. I didn't actually draft at all yesterday. All I was doing was just on Skype, just throwing back and forth ideas, and what I normally feel like I should do, right, is just say, well, let's not make a mistake here, let's pick this, let's not do this, because they're very good about explaining and telling you like what they're gonna pick. Either one, the other drafter who's gonna be showed next is Teamwork. When either of them draft, they always say what they're gonna do, and then I'll just be like, or yay, or like, either I don't like it, or wait, let's think about something, or that shit is phenomenal. They banned Kato and Darkseer. Again, traditional first pick ban. These are normally what you'll see banned first anyway, like, traditionally, like, just because they're just so good. And I kind of forgot what the hell we did this game. Well, I'll find out when you find out. We went Lone Druid. I believe, yeah, this is the game Teamwork goes Lone Druid, and he just wanted Lone Druid. He said, yo, just put me LD in a short lane and you guys just win the game. That's basically what he said, straight up. Because, like, I don't know, it's sort of notorious. It's not like he's one of those players that, like, are bad or anything, or just, non-team players and he doesn't want to. No, it's just, sometimes he gets in these moods where, like, he's just like, look, guys, I just want to play by myself, and then we'll just come back in 30 minutes and just win the game. Like, he literally said that. He said, guys, just break up, like break up the party, no more like aggressive challenge with me in it, just put me on a carry, alone solo, let me beat somebody in a one-on-one, and then I got this. Why is because there was a little bit of and you guys can experience, right? So there's a little bit of infighting. So the tri lane was dominating, but we ended up losing the game. So the tri lane is mad at the tri lane because we were out of position. I didn't show it on camera. Oh, sorry for the sound issue. Because Quap TP'd in once, right? Blinked in with a haste and basically got a triple kill. And then the other one, we didn't know, it was called missing, but we didn't get back far enough. So Quap came out of an invisible and just ulted and then screamed and then killed, and it was basically back-to-back triple kills. But it wasn't really triple kills. It was probably like double kill, and then Creep got one, and then it was double kill, and I think Undying got one with a I don't know. Either way, it doesn't matter. The point is, so it was me, it was Teamwork, and it was the foot dive guy that you saw there, who is the guy that was drafting in the previous games. And there's a lot of infighting because I believe in one of the calls, the Coddle, no, did we have a Coddle? Yeah, the Coddle, which I'm not going to explain who it was because it doesn't matter. The Coddle said get back, and me and the Bane felt that we could take the 3 on by killing the Nyx early because he just got his ultimate. He just had Nightmare, so it's like, yo, use the Nightmare, and then we'll kill him, and we killed him. And then all of a sudden, Undying came, dropped the Tombstone. We're like, yo, bro, we got this shit, watch. And then we're fighting while Coddle's stacking and pulling, and then Quap comes and just gets a double kill, and then ends up killing him, who comes down to help. And, you know, it's... I mean, again, so you're going to deal with this type of these type of reactions in games. So that put us all on edge, and he was just like, look, I don't even want to hear this shit. Just put me on an island. Let me do my thing. You guys just do your thing, and then we'll call it even. Like, we basically, right, so it's like separating friends because, like, they were about to fight, and then that's basically what happened. So we went into this, right, with anger and resentment and, you know, this whole, like, all right, well, just give me Lone Druid, since I can play him and I play him well. Let me solo. Let's build a strategy around him. Now, why I'm telling you and explaining you this story and giving you the backdrop is so that when you're playing, you can see, okay, so we just got into a little bit of riffraff. Everyone's arguing and fighting. So the 2 people arguing and fighting needed to be separated. So what do? One of them we put on an island on a hero so that we didn't have this, you know, this issue. Now, if you guys are thinking, man, you guys fight over dumb shit, you know, blah blah blah, maybe, but the point is you guys may deal with this at some other time, and this is how you deal with this. So we went in to this game with a preset strategy. All right, so we're gonna build around Lone Druid. So we need to build a team around Lone Druid. So we need a strong aggressive tri lane, we need a good versatile middle. We'll let Lone Druid be the end game carry, I think is what we did, I'm not sure. And then we kind of just developed the strategy around that. So we needed a strong tri lane, right? So they go Jakiro and Shadow Demon. We're thinking, holy shit, they're either going super aggressive tri lane or they have a really good defensive lane where they can even throw a Sven would be excellent against us. A Void would be really good if they want a more of a late game type of lineup. So immediately I remember thinking, oh man, those are some fucking good picks, and we just blew our first one on Lone Druid. I didn't say anything, but I was like, oh, that was ugh. Right, so we picked the Rubik because we were going to go with aggressive tri-lane, telekinesis, fade bolt. We ended up picking Nyx. We obviously couldn't pick the Coddle, which was really unfortunate, but we developed another strategy, right? The other strategy was, okay, well, we're not going to build him spamming, we're going to build him setting stuff up. And with the Jakiro, we were hoping Jakiro's
reserve time
is not only strong now because of his new low cost mana stun and just some of the perks that he has. Liquid Fire is also really good. His passive is incredibly strong. So we thought if he levels it, he'll fuck himself up because we have the Carapace, and if he freezes us, we'll fuck himself up because he has a Carapace. So he's not going to be able to stun and move forward, and then be able to dual breath or whatever, right? Like to possibly get a kill or any of that shit. So we were just like, all right, so we'll get the Nyx and the telekinesis to set up for somebody. Now, I remember who we picked here, and it was sort of a tricky kind of selection. I didn't engineer it, I don't think. Normally, like when I usually say, yo, let's pick these heroes or whatever, they normally do it. And a lot of times I have like a clear indication as to what I want to do or what I want to think in terms of what situation is developing and like how we want to go around it. But I was completely shocked at the pick that we selected, and I didn't see it coming, yet it made perfect sense. So with the reason I'm telling you this is because once the Dragonite pick was out, I was kind of like, whoa, if that's gonna go down there, then who are they gonna mid, and who are they gonna do this and stuff with? So we're already thinking on Skype. Like I remember I was like, whoa, DK, whoa, and I remember saying this on Skype, we need somebody that can fight through armor, right? So immediately we were like, okay, well, we have a short lane, we're gonna aggressive tri lane, so we can't have Gondar on the board. We don't want Gondar with that team. We don't want track gold with obviously DK, so we can get fast armlet, BKB, and then he can then transition into like a Bariza and all that stuff. We do not want any part of that. We also got Panda out of the way because Panda could go middle with them, and they could actually 2-2-1 this. For those of you that don't know, it's the position, right? So they could go Jakiro, Dragon Knight, and be good against a tri-lane with Shadow Demon and a Brewmaster middle, and they can win that lane, and then their Suicide hopefully wins or just competes, and that's a 2-2-1 setup. They could also throw a wrench into it, and then put Panda down there, let DK middle. DK with a high armor is a really effective middle, especially against a hero like Rubik or Nyx, you know, and even Lone Druid. So we were kind of like, wow, okay, well, that DK pick kind of scared us. So we got rid of the Brewmaster just in case. They got rid of the Lifestealer, which, in my opinion, was a little bit of a miscalculation because with the Lone Druid, we can't really pick Lifestealer unless we're going to Suicide Lifestealer, right? Put him long lane, and then let Nyx get the solo top. That's not what we were doing. Now, they obviously couldn't know that, but we just were like, oh, okay, cool. So then we banned the TA. Now, we banned the TA because, again, we don't want a middle. Like, what mid do we have right now that can stop that? None. We don't have a mid capable. Like, Lone Druid is probably the best suited to have a decent opportunity against her. And even Nyx, even though I like Nyx, even though you can mana burn and get her mana off, it's just still not, it's still not effective. You're not going to kill her. She may not kill you. You're not going to get much done. You're not going to dominate her. Sideblades is still going to fucking beat your ass. So why even bother? Rubik obviously just not good in that lineup. They ended up taking out Quap. I think Quap was one of the people that we wanted to send middle, and then we got kind of screwed because we wanted more of a, like I said, right, like a flexible sort of utility middle that could be strong early, strong mid, strong late. Isn't obviously super late or anything, but it's still strong late, can hold her own. And then they obviously got rid of Balinar because, again, they saw that early game dominance is only going to feed the Lone Druid's momentum, and, you know, early towers and then early Roches can be a real pain in the ass. So what ended up happening here was, I actually don't remember, so probably shouldn't say anything if I don't remember, right, guys? Yeah, you know how it is. Okay, so we got the Enigma. Now the Enigma, I don't think it was a bad pick or a good pick. We ended up sending Enigma middle, I remember, because we thought the DK was going to be middle, and we thought that would have been the proper play. And it also gave us more flexibility in team fights, and it gave us more pushing power and early Roshan potential, which we wanted. I'm a big advocate of getting early Roshan potential, like on Gondar, on TA, getting early medallions, on Razor if you get them early medallions, all that stuff, just so you can fight Roshan early. Enigma as well. I mean, again, obviously to fight Roshan early, so I mean, it is what it is. But I'm really big on that because I feel like it's a good advantage. Gyrocopter was there. Once we saw the Gyro pick, I knew immediately, we knew that was the pick that was going to go bottom. DK was then going to go middle, and it turned out to work out perfectly because they played right into our hands. Normally, and I don't want to say normally you should be smart enough, because I feel like that's disrespectful to the other guys, because I don't think that they were bad at all, and I think their draft is pretty good. I think they had a good idea. But what I do want to say is, okay, if you feel, so I'll give you an example. So if you feel like, if we know, right, you're going Queen of Pain middle, or like Puck middle, and we also know that there's a Nyx Assassin, right, that's going middle. If you have the flexibility to put one of them in the long lane and then counter that Nyx pick middle, if you know the Nyx is going to go middle, counter it. Or inversely, if you know that, like, they're going to send, like, TA middle, right? And let's say you have a Veno, pick fourth. Okay, adjust the strategy. Send the Veno middle, dominate the TA. Like, well, on the Veno, say you don't have any hero that, again, has the DOT to break through refraction, right? She's going to have to, you know, hit him all those charges. Well, you have to be able to, sorry, guys, but you have to be able to you have to be able to adjust, adapt, and react to what's on the board. Once they saw Enigma, they could have possibly adjusted the strategy to pick a mid hero that was ranged and had more versatility than I think a DK would have. And why I think that's important, and of course hindsight, obviously, right, it gives me the benefit of being the douchebag that it's a Monday morning quarterback, that, oh yeah, well, you should have done this, you should have done this. But no, but really think about it. Lone Druid, Nyx middle. Still, Lone Druid against DK, probably, it's still not something it's not ideal. Nyx, okay, sure, you can handle it. But, you know, you can handle it. It's okay. Enigma, chances are you're not going to see an Enigma middle. But understand, guys, Enigma can middle, and he can be a force and a presence. So, I just felt like they should have kept the DK strategy in the long lane and should have adjusted. But now that I look at it, I mean, I kind of wanted to be the douche and say, well, they just kind of didn't adjust to the right play. But now that I really look at it, like, what are the chances? What are the odds? But again, you have to include these variables in whatever that you do and whatever you decide. Now, I am okay with putting Enigma middle or long lane or playing the 4. So I'm flexible enough to say, well, I can throw him anywhere, but that's just my mentality because I understand that the hero has strengths in other lanes and other roles, not just relegated to like the jungle 4, right? So me personally, I would have saw that pick and said, let's just keep DK in the tri lane. But again, that's me, and I also have the benefit of hindsight. But I want to give you guys at least an indication as to what to think and how to feel about certain picks and how to make adjustments, because I feel like all that's just important. And that's something that you want to think about when you see something like that. When you have an idea, okay, we're going to send him middle. I know they said they were going to send him middle. And then this pick, and they still sent him middle. And I don't know. I feel like that was a mistake, but I guess I can understand, especially at lower level play. And not that these guys were lower level, but they just clearly didn't have the thought. Okay, and then the last pick, and I don't know who the hell came up with the idea, but I liked it. And I don't know if it was teamwork or it was Eric or whatever, or Army or Crazy Fox. I don't know, but it was good. I liked it. I ended up playing the Razor. Why is the Razor a good pick? For 2 reasons. One, in the tri lane, obviously, you know he's very strong because and most people don't use Spirit Link, but Spirit Link, this ability right here, or Static Link, is incredible. I skilled it first. I always get that first at level 1, because if you fight in the jungle and you're able to drain a lot, it's just incredible. The ability to take a carry out of the game, and then, you know, use his attack damage and use his damage against him is paramount. What we ended up doing was we had the 2 disables, right? We had the setups. We had the Nyx long range stun, the telekinesis, and then throw him back. Meanwhile, Static Link is already applied to whatever hero that we want. The only hero we had to worry about was the Jakiro, so positioning was really, really important. Static Link also, guys, so you know, goes through disruption. So if I Static Link somebody that is disrupted, the Static Link, as long as he's in range, will still be applied. So the pick was excellent. It turned out to be an incredible pickup and a very intuitive pickup, because honestly, it gave us everything that we wanted. Also, his range with his first ability, like for those of you that don't know, oh shit. Sorry, the camera's here. Oh, Plasma Field is just incredible. I mean, the amount of range, for those of you that don't understand how it works, the further you are from him, if you reach it at its apex, it does more damage than if you were to be closer to him and hit him at the beginning or on the way back. So and it basically hits on each side, right? So it hits you once and then hits you back if you're in range, whatever. But it's super good. It's really good for the getaways, right? For the chases, because ultimate, for those that don't know, it just shoots bursts of damage down, but it just does a lot of damage. His inherent movement speed is really good. His ability to kite and react, once he gets a BKB, he doesn't have to worry about stun locks, and they don't have any true stuns here. So it's just incredible. It is an incredible pickup for what we wanted to do, because there were really no weaknesses with the hero, and I was really impressed by that pickup. It was obviously not my a pick of my own, which is why I'm so excited about it, because I felt like, you know, I should mention it, because that's just, again, somebody, one of your friends, coming up with something just like, I think this will work, and then having the players that are able to play those heroes that aren't commonly played, and still, like you saw the axe earlier, still come out and produce at a relatively high level. They picked the Beastmaster, which was, in my opinion, a good pickup. It's to counter to the Enigma. They thought the ultimate was going to be like our big play here. Also gives them their suicide lane, which they needed, and really was just a strong a strong hero pick. I felt like that was a good pick. But ultimately it didn't obviously win in the game. What ends up happening in this game is this. The Enigma goes off and ended up trolling and getting a Radiance. I, of course, went off. But the tri-lane just was super successful and it went really well. But it was based on the fact that, obviously, again, we picked because of the infighting, a particular role. The Lone Druid played well, too. He had, he had his Radiance, his items, all that good stuff. And we adjusted, and then we knew we had a regressive tri-lane, so we picked that first. We got the 2 heroes, right? We got the Rubik, and then we got the Nyx. And then moving forward, we picked up the middle to counter their middle. And then we got the last pick, which was really strong against not only their carries in the mid and late game, but also was really good early on with his range and his ability at the long lane to be able to get kills and all that other stuff. And you see how that it all has a symbiotic relationship. And I thought that was really that was a really nice depiction of 2 teams with similar drafting styles and similar techniques, just trying to one up each other, and we clearly came out on the end of that. So that was that game. There will be one more game that we want to show, so we'll get to that right now. Okay guys, this is going to be the last game on the slate. You can see pretty standard drafts. This game is going to be a case of too many cooks in the kitchen. We had a different draft of this game. He was obviously still a member of the 5 that have been playing throughout most of the night. I believe somebody left and we added another one. And what ended up happening in this game was just too many different ideologies, too many different plans, trying to get sewn up together to make everybody happy. And at the end, we just came up with a fucking shit show for a draft and just terrible decisions across the board. But it was primarily because, I mean, again, it's really good to communicate with your team so that you can get so you can put positions or players in positions to succeed, right? It's very good to say, well, look, here's what I'm thinking. Can anybody play this? Who wants to play this? Who's going to do this? Or just have an idea as to which of your teammates plays certain heroes very well, and you kind of want to pick those up so that you increase the likeliness, right, that you're going to win and stuff. But this is a case where too much communication and not enough decision making definitely can cost you games, because trying to please everybody as the captain can sometimes screw you over. But then also not having a fundamental idea as to what you want to do originally, compounded with all the extra little ideas and the intricacies of every other person and what they want and what they see, just completely just creates this shit stew. And you just get the drafts like you're going to see. This was not the last game of the night, but this is the last game I'm going to show. Because I kind of want you guys to see all the games, right? Games where we have just really bad drafts, or we're against really bad drafts, where we're against really good drafts, where we're against tricky drafts, where we draft well, where we don't draft well, where we start fighting because we lose, so that you guys can see just how drafting changes not only from game to game, but also changes with the momentum and the ebb and flow of your team, and all that stuff. So in this game, they pick up a Kato, so immediately, once you see a Kato, you have to know the Phantom Lancer is in play. So we picked Magnus and Lifestealer. Now, I think the Magnus is an incredible pick, a very smart pickup. I have no problem with Magnus being selected. Obviously, you can see Magnus wasn't banned by us because it was a different drafter. This goes back to, right, the tendencies of drafters, right? So the drafters beforehand, for the most of the videos, I believe, actually, hated Batrider and hated Magnus, always banned him, right? See, now we have someone else and Magnus is selected, and I end up playing Magnus, and I don't mind. Lifestealer, though, I feel like it's a stupid pick to pick him second. Why? Because what did I say about the first 2 picks, guys? You pick the best heroes on the board, regardless. You pick the best heroes on the board. The exception is, say there's hero 2 and 2A, right? Well, 2 is better than 2A, but for what you want to do, and with your first pick, 2A is a little bit better than 2, then you can pick him. It's okay, not a big deal. But primarily the rule of thumb is you pick the best heroes on the board. Well, Nyx clearly isn't one of the best heroes on the board, especially left in this draft. You could have picked Nyx last, and they would have probably given it to you, unless it's an obvious Nyx pickup or Nyx counters the rest of the heroes. So that was a little bit of an error, which goes back to what I was saying again, and what I've been prefacing this entire show with, right? Not having ideas, or at least having an idea of what you're going to do. You don't need ideas like, all right, you have all these contingency plans in place for bad shit or well, whatever, but you need to have one idea, one linear idea. We want to build team fight, we want to build gank, we want to build early push, we want to build late game. Like what do we want to do? We want to go build counter push, we want to build global like Tinker or Furion split push strategy, or anti-mage Furion, or anti-mage, you know, Tinker, you know, like stuff like that, like, right? So different intuitive ideas. You don't really need all that shit. You can just pick one of them and then go with it. But when you have this, it's just, I want to wombo combo. Well, you could pick this combo later. You don't have to push it early, right? So then going forward, they pick a Quap. Well, Quap's clearly gonna mid for them at this point. As of right now, the information we have given, Quap will be their middle. That's the only information we have. Against Magnus, I'll take that matchup any day of the week and twice on Sunday. So for us, we're already looking like it's gonna be in a good spot. Then the PL pick. So we're like, okay, we've seen this shit before. We knew it was coming, but we don't mind going against PL because we understand how to shut down PL. Just early aggression. You got to try to get to his supports. You know, make him one-dimensional. And just spirit lance, and then you can just defend it. So we pick up a Rubik here because now we're already thinking, okay, we may want to aggressive tri-lane this. We may want to do something, so let's pick up the Rubik. Rubik is really good for stealing, you know, some of Quap's abilities, and even if he can get Keeper of the Light, right, like Chakra for Magnus, because Magnus goes through a lot of abilities. You just allow Magnus. So like if they're pushing your tower and you have Magnus, just keep illuminating and giving Magnus enough to Shockwave and, you know, all that good stuff. I mean,
10 seconds.
You getting Illuminate on your own would be really good, so you can counter push the push, right? You know, so but you know, ideally you use them for the early game strength. The Chen ban, very good ban. I mean, clearly they don't know what we're gonna do. We could, you know, go Magnus middle, Chen in the jungle, Rubik, Lifestealer. Now we need a fifth, or like I'm sorry, after that Chen pickup, if we were to pick up Chen, then we can go with like a long lane, and you know, their team will be whole, and you know, you don't want that. And then Chen early game just is really good against tri-lane versus tri-lane, either long or I mean aggressive or defensive, so it's good. The Thrall, we didn't want Thrall obviously because of mainly the ability to glimpse and then kinetic field and just completely control the battleground, right, and where you're fighting and the positioning of your heroes as you're fighting. And then his ultimate's a pain in the ass too. And they banned Jakiro because they don't want basically the Jakiro to be with Rubik and then Lifestealer, right? So you have telekinesis into an easy ice path and then into a life leech as they're beginning to run away and get back into the fray and are able to run away, and then boom, they get slowed, and then you know, you just don't want that shit. And then with Rage, you can't stop the Lifestealer from killing you, and it's just presents a multitude of issues that they didn't want to have happen. We got rid of Shadow Demon obviously because of the tri-lane with Kato and PO, and we don't want to give anybody, you know, amplification of damage, so that PL can just beat the shit out of them, and you know, the disruption setups and for Kato and all that other stuff we didn't want. They banned Tidehunter because that's another pickup. We could have had Tidehunter kind of sort of playing a pseudo 4. We didn't want, or they didn't want that as well. We didn't want Enigma because of, again, what did I say earlier? Enigma is the anti-melee. So it's generally not a good idea to allow Enigma on the board if your most important heroes are melee and going to always be pushing forward and close and clustered. So you don't want to set up like an easy blink Enigma, right? And, you know, especially if you don't have the counters for Enigma, which we don't have, and we don't clearly want to pick those counters either, right? Like a Vengeful Spirit or like a Beastmaster, or even sort of Bane-ish, because why? Like, we don't want to have to pick heroes that need to be able to stun and disable through BKBs because we clearly have a different idea, right? So once the Leshrac pick is selected, we're like, oh shit, so they're going like pretty early push strategy now, because you have Leshrac, you're gonna have Edict, you're gonna have PL trying to either rush, well, normally he's gonna rush a Radiance or Purge anyway, but you know, when I see the Leshrac pick up, I definitely see that they're going to try to probably get early towers, maybe in anticipation of an early Radiance pickup and all that good jazz for him. And that's definitely something you don't want to see. So now we're thinking, oh, shit. So I don't remember exactly what my pickup... No. I don't remember exactly what I was suggesting or what anybody was suggesting. But what I can tell you is right here is where all of our views get distorted. You have so many people saying, pick this, I think we should go this. And then I remember I was not happy with something that they were going to select, and I was trying to voice that, and they were like, well, but I don't like that because of this. And this is when having too many cooks in the kitchen become a real issue, because you didn't have an identity to begin with, so people don't have that preset indication in their head. Okay, well, this is the idea that we're going with, so they're now throwing and, you know, spitting out all their own ideas. So their ideas compounded with your ideas just creates all this, you know, non-idea gibberish that is forming. So our next picks, I think, were the dumbest selections. But I mean, it's just a byproduct of just not really communicating a plan and a goal, and then just picking random heroes all the line. Oh, okay, so I remember this. So we said, okay, here's what we can do. We can just put Lion middle against Quap. Lion is going to give us the ability, especially if we have early sentries, to make sure PL and Quap do not, under any circumstance, want to get close to us at all. If Quap blinks in, she is dead because of an instant stun finger, and then, you know, Fade Bolt or whoever's around. So, and then in our minds, we're like, and also PL doesn't want to get in, doesn't even want to get close, and he doesn't even want to show by using Spirit Lance, which is the real him, right? Because then instantly we can have Magnus coming in, you know, using a skewer once the hero has identified itself, right? So, because sometimes you don't know if it's an illusion, if it's a Doppelwalk illusion, or if it's Spirit Lance illusion, because sometimes some players are tricky and they pull that shit, or if he gets a mantle, you know, like, you don't know. So, but once he gives you the indication, right? Say he's next to this tower and he gets Q, and then he Spirit Lances like a Rubik. Well, guess what? Magnus could come right out of the tree, skewer, and then ultimate, even if he Doppelwalks, pop a dust, because he's going to be in the general area, because obviously you only have a certain amount of movement speed, right? So you're not going to be able to cross leaps and bounds just because you fucking are invis or whatever. So, you know, you can do that, and then you can pop it, and then Lion can just, you know, so immediately we're thinking, okay, the Lion middle, because look what's going to happen. We're just going to just make sure that Queen of Pain doesn't want to get aggressive and blink in and ultimate and scream and have us on the defensive, because she's just going to die, right? So it's either Quap or PL. So we go, okay, we're throwing Lion middle. That was our deal. And I think up to here, everybody was okay. I think this next pickup is what really threw the wrench in, and this is a credit to Skit's ego or whatever, because he threw a curveball, and this curveball fucked us up, because this is where we really started not fighting, but really having heavy disagreements. There was like 4 different heroes that I think were in the running. There's a Furion, which I'm gonna get into. There was a Pudge, which the Pudge earlier who was playing, who's really, really good at Pudge. It's a army, or it's a soft petal yellow, whatever. This kid's an idiot with his name, but he wasn't having a good day, and the last time he played against the TA, he didn't really do well, so we weren't going to give him the Pudge. There was another selection, it was my selection, which was go Veno here, and then there was another final selection, which was, oh no, I said Veno or Dazzle, and then there's another selection which was, man, I don't remember. But so those are just the different heroes, right? So there's 4 different heroes right now that all of us want on the board. Now, the reason why I wanted the Dazzle is for 2 reasons. Poison Touch, and obviously the ability to save someone's life. So that was going to be my mid, right? Poison Touch, if you guys don't know, just completely demolishes TA. Dazzle is a good middle against TA, but Dazzle normally isn't selected with that strategy in mind. But I felt Dazzle would have been perfect, because you have an early game hero that counters the TA, that puts your team in a good position mid game and late game with all of his unique abilities, his ultimate giving you armor, taking their armor, the heals, and I don't know, I kind of felt like that was the play. I really just felt like that was the play. But then I said, also, we can go Venomancer. Well, why can we go Venomancer? Clearly, Why do we need another support? Well, I'll tell you why. Because Poison Nova, look at that team. Who's getting a pipe on that team? Can anybody tell me who's going to get a pipe on that team? This goes back to what we were talking about earlier, right? About, look at the items. Who's getting a pipe on that team? It's going to have to be Kato. But Kato has to get a mech or a pipe. Because Kato just isn't going to get free farm. We're going to be able to farm up when we want. Because I'm looking at, we're going to have to start team fighting here at about 15, 20 minutes. And what hero on that team is possibly going to get a mech and a pipe at that fast? There's no hero. Leshrack's not going to be able to do it unless he gets every tower known to man. But that's still not going to happen. Kato's not going to do it. He's going to rush a mechanism. So how are they going to have an answer for Poison Nova? Especially TA. Right? Like, how are they going to have an answer for Poison Nova? Like, PL is even in danger if he gets hit with Poison Nova to even be coming out anyway. Because if a sentry's placed and he gets caught, look at the burst between Fade Bolt and Magnus and then Lion. Like, look at the burst. So I thought we can shut down the TA middle with Veno, and then mid game and late game just make sure Poison Nova is applied to all those heroes on top of Gale and, you know, all this other stuff. I thought, okay, that's a reasonable pickup. And then also the Veno could get the other items that we were going to get, right? The Lion can get the mechanism, the Venomancer can get the pipe, can get a Force Staff. I mean, there was really a lot of things that we could have done. And then obviously there was a Furion selection. The Furion selection was mainly to a Nake's Bomb and have the global presence, be able to push early, as well as be able to have an extra man in every lane. And then who's the other one I mentioned? Furion, Dazzle, Veno, and there was someone else. Man, I don't remember. But anyways, so clearly, why don't you want a Furion in this pickup? Well, Furion gets raped if he's out of position by TA. Furion also doesn't really do well against Leshrac if he's out of position. PL, clearly. Quap can insta-kill him. Kato is really not so much, but Mana Leak is a little bit annoying. But the thing is, against this sort of team, this team is going to group up early, guys. TA is going to gank. TA makes her living off of farming early once she gets phase boots and blink, just ganking. Quap is mobile ganking. PL also, technically outside of farming, is ganking, right? I mean, he's always going to be in the middle of action because that's where he basically does the best. He gets to kite and just spam Spirit Lance at will. Kato and Leshrac are going to be with their team. So if TA and Quap have to gank, that means Leshrac and Keeper are normally going to gank with them because they don't really have the strength to push without backup. So Furion, in my opinion, wouldn't be the pick. Why? Well, I mean, it's too position dependent. You have to have like the perfect game on Furion in order to even make the pick justifiable. Well, look what we end up picking, because we just somebody decided to pick something and then it's just, oh man, boom. So, and clearly this game didn't go well for us just because of the many different strategies, and we long lane Furion against the tri lane, which though he didn't do poorly, that's not why we lost. It's just we didn't have the we just didn't have what we wanted where we needed, and it just turned out bad. Now, of course, hindsight's 2020, and maybe if we picked the picks that I picked, we still would have got my ass beat and lost and all this other stuff. I am not arguing that fact. I'm just trying to give you guys all the different types of variables that should be applied to all of these scenarios, right? So the logistics of all this is, okay, when you pick up a Magnus and a Lifestealer, you need to build around them, but you need to have like an identity. We try to have the identity. We were on the right track, and then they threw a curveball. And a lot of times this is going to happen. This last pick, like Broodmother also does this, where your team doesn't have any AoE like ability to take care of the spiderlings, right? The broodlings. And what ends up happening is a last pick Broodmother is like, oh shit, because you don't have somebody to stop her. And you have to dedicate so many resources to stop her. And that is the strength of a fifth pick like that, which this fifth pick really threw a monkey wrench into it. And of course, in hindsight, we should have banned it or picked it. But that was just an incredible pickup by the other team to realize this and pick it. And then it was just our fault for just not responding accordingly and just doing what we needed to do. And therein lies the problem. Sometimes you're going to have days where you're not going to draft for it. You're going to get out drafted. Sometimes you're going to play against people that are better than you or not better than you. And I mean, these things are going to happen, and it's just going to help your maturation process as you go forward. But yeah, this is just resulting in having too many cooks in the kitchen and not enough meat available, because we didn't have enough substance in our strategy, and we were just trying to come up with some slick stuff, and then just got fucked because we didn't have any identity and we didn't know what we wanted to do and how we wanted to do it, and therefore we got our fucking asses kicked. I'll show you. It was the slaughter. So you can see here, look at their numbers, you can look at our numbers. It really wasn't a fun game to play. But I mean, these things happened, and of course these things are going to happen in games when you're playing. You're not always going to win, you're not always going to lose. But yeah, so I'm just going to jump right into the outro here. What I'm going to end up doing is we are going to discuss the episode. The next episode is going to be mid. I kind of did this because of user choice, and I think it's something that I should probably start getting into now. I hope you guys understand that this wasn't really a step-by-step guide on how to draft. I'm assuming you guys already know the strengths and weaknesses of heroes, and maybe I should have been a little bit more elaborate in my details and not been so like talking about just the draft. Instead, the steps and levels and decision-making process that you want to go through, and maybe I could give you guys rules and stuff. But the truth is, drafting is really intuitive, so there really is no one way to do it. So just, I hope by watching this, you guys get a clear indication as to like what you could think, what you should think, how you should think. Not that I'm perfect, and not that I'm the best drafter in the world. Clearly, I'm not even a pro yet, right? So technically, I'm nobody. But I have enough game sense, and I have a high enough game IQ that I can draft, and I'm confident enough to say I think I can draft like the best of them. Now, that's still just a comment. There's still no substance in the comment, but I felt like I had enough knowledge that I can make a video like this quickly. It took me literally 25-30 minutes, and I can put this out there, and hopefully you guys that aren't maybe in the beginner level or the intermediate level can gain something from this, and those will be going into the intermediate level can use this episode as to, okay, well, now we're playing harder games, now we're playing captain's mode against other players, and here's what we should really think about drafting, because I think we need to have more. There has to be more drafting tutorials, and maybe I will get more intricate into things as it goes down with heroes and how, you know, I'm thinking of coming up with a rating system of heroes and like stuff like that. But I think I gave you guys good information as to what the first 2 picks should always be, what your 3rd pick is going to be, the information that's given across the board, what you can do with the flexibility of your teammates and all that stuff. I mean, I will admit that I don't think, because this was rushed, it was done the best possible way that I could have. But I will say that the objective and the idea of this little mini episode is just to elaborate on and inform people just how to draft, how to understand a draft, you know, what are counter picks, what are fake out picks, right? And then, or the mind game picks, which was like the Enigma. For those of you that don't understand that concept, you know, they end up banning 2 counters for Enigma, and they picked 1 counter for an Enigma, actually, one of the 2 counters, because they thought the Enigma, his main purpose was for the black hole and to set up his teammates, where in reality we just did it to beat the middle so we can early push and then have an early Roshan, and then also, by the way, hey, we have black hole plus we have another stun. It was just a manipulation of right ideologies. You see Enigma, you think, oh man, these guys want instant fucking team fight, right? Like they want that major, you know, black hole, like light of heaven black hole. I mean, I could have said PGG, but that wouldn't have worked here. But no, we just picked it just because we knew we had a high armor hero. The Eidolons would just beat the crap out of him, you know, we'll force him out of lane, and it worked. I mean, he got destroyed and all that stuff, and that's a mind game pick. And yeah, so I just wanted you guys to have an idea as to all these different level of things. And since there's so many layers and so many different ways to teach this, I just felt, okay, it would be real for me to just say, listen, look at my few games that I played just yesterday, and I'm explaining to you guys now just what we went through and what was going on and how we went about this. And it was good because I didn't draft any of this. I just helped and, you know, did all that. So it was good because you see different perspectives from other players, and some of their plans worked, other plans didn't work, but it doesn't matter. You're still playing a team game. You guys have to come together, and you have to always remember that at the end of the day, you want to put your teammates and you want to be in the best position to win. So like things like the infighting and all that stuff, which I told you about, you know, these are ways to avoid it or deal with it, or use that to your advantage going into a draft. And then I showed you the downfalls of having too many people with input and trying to please everybody, and then coming up with just a draft that is, you know, basically counterproductive, because, you know, God bless him, he was trying to, you know, please everybody, and then at the end of the day we just ended up ruining a draft because we didn't really know what we were doing. And it's not that the drafter was at fault, absolutely not. The drafter had an idea, he had a good start to the idea, but then, you know, we kind of screwed it up, and that's the whole team process. And it's, as a captain, you're going to deal with that. You're going to make some people angry because they're not going to get the picks that they want, or then you lose the game and then they go hindsight's 2020 and, oh man, I told you, you should have fucking picked this hero. Like, it's, you're going to deal with all this nonsense. And I just wanted you guys to have a video so that you can, you know, dissect, look up, you know, review, and just hopefully gain a little bit of insight from this video. I will probably make, I know for sure I'm going to make another one of these videos during the CM stages, but I will not be the one that is teaching, right? It's going to be more pro players, and I already have an idea as to who it's going to be. So we're going to definitely just, you know, keep that there. I'm going to make an item video as well, probably after the next 5 sets of these, just like I did. I made this little special Dota 101 episode after the first season, which was all beginner stuff. Now it's intermediate. I would make an item video as well, so that I can have you guys understanding why you should pick an item, when you should pick an item, what hero, or what the heroes you select, and how they determine what you're going to pick up, you know, and all that other stuff, or the heroes on the other team, what you're gonna need, you know. Again, all that shit we're gonna discuss at the end of the intermediate level. But I just wanted, again, to give you guys a quick taste of what you're going to see in this at the CM level. But just know, at the CM level, you're not going to be dealing with me. You're going to be dealing with actual people that are professionals and clearly, obviously, have a better sense of like drafting than I would do, since, you know, I'm not a pro myself yet. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and by all accounts, of course, leave your feedback and all that other good jazz. All right, guys.